Snow hammered the cabin walls like the world was ending. The wind howled through the cracks, rattling the old window panes. 38-year-old Ethan Cole, a single dad from Montana, stood by the fireplace tossing in another log when a desperate knock shattered the storm's roar. His daughter jolted awake on the couch, whispering, "Dad, someone's outside." When Ethan opened the door, the wind nearly ripped it off its hinges, revealing a woman in a soaked coat, trembling, eyes wide with panic. "Please," she gasped, "my car spun off the road. I didn't know where else to go." He hesitated for only a heartbeat before pulling her in. "You're safe here." He didn't know that the stranger he just saved was Ava Grant, the CEO of the very company he worked for, whose face he'd only seen on the break room poster. Before we dive in, drop a comment with where you're watching from, and don't forget to hit subscribe for more videos like this. Let's begin. Ethan guided the woman toward the fire, his flannel sleeve brushing against her frozen hand. "Sit down before you collapse," he said, his voice steady but kind. The old cabin crackled with warmth, glowing amber against the darkness outside. His daughter, Lily, 9 years old, messy blonde curls falling over her sleepy eyes, peeked from behind the couch, holding her worn-out stuffed bear. The woman tried to speak, but her teeth chattered too violently. Ethan grabbed one of his flannel shirts from the chair and handed it to her. "Here, it's clean, I promise." "Thank you," she whispered, her voice delicate but trembling. She pulled the oversized shirt over her soaked clothes, her fingers stiff with cold. Ethan crouched near her, studying her carefully. She wasn't just any lost traveler. Her leather boots looked expensive, her diamond watch flashed even in the dim firelight, small signs she didn't belong to this part of Montana. "What were you doing out there alone?" he asked. I was trying to reach the airport before the blizzard hit," she said softly. "My GPS died. I took a wrong turn, and then..." She swallowed hard. "My car skidded off the road near a frozen creek. I thought that you wouldn't make it?" Ethan finished for her, voice gentler now. She nodded, her eyes glassy. "Yes." Lily stepped forward with a mug of hot cocoa, her favorite comfort for bad nights. "Here," she said shyly, offering it with both hands. "Daddy says it helps when people feel scared." The woman's lips quivered into a fragile smile. "That's very kind of you, sweetheart." She took a sip, closing her eyes briefly. "It's perfect." Ethan's chest tightened watching them, his little girl showing kindness without hesitation, even when life had given them so little. "I'm Ethan," he said, breaking the silence. "And this is Lily. You can stay here till morning. The storm's too bad for driving." "I appreciate that," she said. "I'm Ava." She hesitated on her last name, Grant, deciding not to reveal it. She wasn't ready for anyone to know who she really was tonight. For once, she wanted to just be human. Hours passed. The wind screamed outside, but inside, the world felt still. Ethan and Ava talked quietly, while Lily drifted back to sleep near the fire. He told her how he worked as a mechanic at a local company called North Star Motors, how he took night shifts just to keep the bills paid and food on the table. Ava's pulse quickened at the name. North Star Motors was her company. Her name was printed on every paycheck that man earned. Yet he was sitting here sharing his only blanket with her, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You must be exhausted," he said. "You can take my room. I'll sleep out here." She shook her head quickly. "I can't take your bed. Not after you've already done so much." He gave her a small smile. "I'm a single dad. Trust me, I'm used to long nights and bad couches." Their eyes met for a moment, brief but deep. She saw warmth in him, the kind that didn't fade, even when life turned cold. And he saw something behind her guarded expression, a loneliness that looked all too familiar. "Thank you, Ethan," she whispered, her voice barely audible. As the fire burned low and the snow kept falling, Ava lay awake in the quiet of his small, humble home, surrounded by warmth she hadn't felt in years. She couldn't shake the thought. This man, this stranger, had given her shelter without knowing who she was. And that kindness was about to change both their lives forever. When the sun finally clawed its way through the storm clouds, the world outside looked like a painting, white, still, untouched. Ethan stepped outside, breath visible in the cold air, surveying the damage. His old pickup was half buried in snow. The woman's sleek black sedan sat tilted at an angle, nose deep in a snowbank. Inside, Ava stirred awake, the faint scent of coffee filling the cabin. She blinked as sunlight poured through the frosted window, landing on Lily's small hands wrapping around a mug. "Morning," Ethan said, walking in, wiping snow from his jacket. "You were out like a light. How are you feeling?" Ava smiled faintly. "Warm, thanks to you and your daughter." Lily grinned. "Daddy says coffee fixes everything, but he doesn't drink much of it because it's too fancy." Ethan chuckled, setting another mug in front of Ava. "What she means is, I drink the cheap kind." Ava's laughter came softly, unpolished, genuine. She hadn't laughed like that in years, not since before her company, her board meetings. The weight of her title had drained the warmth from her life. She looked around the cabin, old furniture, a cracked photo frame, a drawing taped to the wall that read, "Me and Daddy fixing cars," in crayon. It was small, imperfect, but filled with love. "You raised her alone?" Ava asked quietly. Ethan nodded. "Since she was 4. Her mom left when things got hard. Guess not everyone's built for struggle." He said it without bitterness, but there was a shadow behind his calm. Ava looked down at her hands, guilt stirring in her chest. How many people like him worked for her? Honest, overworked, underpaid, while she sat in an office suite making decisions that affected their lives. "I'm sorry," she murmured, surprising herself. He frowned slightly. "For what?" "For what the world does to good people." He smiled, though confusion flickered in his eyes. "Life's not fair, sure. But kindness? That's the only thing we still get to control." The way he said it, without preaching, just truth, stuck with her. By noon, the roads were partially cleared. Ethan helped shovel her car free, his breath clouding in the cold. Ava tried to help, slipping once, and he caught her before she fell. Their eyes met again, closed this time, and something unspoken passed between them, a warmth deeper than the fire that had kept them alive last night. When the car finally roared to life, she hesitated. "Ethan, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "If you had the power to change your life tomorrow, what would you do?" He smiled, brushing snow off his gloves. "Buy my own garage, fix cars my way, maybe teach Lily how to run it someday. But dreams like that?" He shrugged. "They stay dreams." Ava bit her lip, studying him. Maybe not forever. He didn't understand the look she gave him, something determined, almost secret. Before leaving, Ava knelt to Lily's level. "You're lucky to have him, sweetheart." "I know," Lily said proudly. "He helps everyone, even people he doesn't know." Ava smiled, eyes misty. "He helped me too." When her car disappeared into the glistening road, Ethan stood in the doorway, feeling a strange emptiness. He didn't know her full name, but her presence had left something behind. Hope, maybe. He turned back to the cabin, exhaled deeply, and whispered, "Safe travels, Ava." What he didn't know was that miles away, in a luxury office tower, Ava Grant, the CEO of North Star Motors, was staring out her window with a single thought echoing in her chest. He deserves more than this world ever gave him. And by the end of that week, she was going to make sure of it. 3 days passed. The storm was gone, but the memory of it clung to Ethan's mind like a dream that wouldn't fade. He went back to his job at North Star Motors, tightening bolts, fixing engines, and joking with his crew the way he always did. But something felt different. He caught himself glancing at every new car that pulled into the lot, half expecting to see that black sedan again. She hadn't told him her last name, but something about her calm composure, her tone, her eyes, stayed with him. The way she listened, like she truly saw him. People rarely did. That morning, the shop buzzed with nervous whispers. "Big boss from corporate's visiting," his co-worker muttered. "Some CEO ladies flying in to inspect operations." Ethan shrugged. "Just another suit who won't notice the grease on our hands." But when the black SUV pulled up and the door opened, his heart stuttered. Ava stepped out. Same coat, same quiet confidence, except now she wasn't the lost woman from a snowstorm. She was Ava Grant, the woman whose name was on every paycheck in that building. The crew froze. The manager, Mr. Larson, hurried forward, fawning. "Ms. Grant, we didn't know you'd be visiting this location personally." Ava smiled politely, though her eyes darted across the lot until they found Ethan. He stood by a half-repaired SUV, a wrench in hand, disbelief etched across his face. Their gazes locked for one charged moment, long enough for him to understand everything. When Larson began bragging about production numbers, Ava cut him off. "I'd like to speak to Mr. Cole privately." Larson blinked, startled. Of course, Ms. Grant." Ethan wiped his hands on a rag as she approached. "Guess you found your way home after all," he said, voice calm but cautious. "I did," she replied softly. "And I owe you more than you know." He half smiled. "You don't owe me anything. You needed help. That's what people do when someone's freezing on their doorstep." "Maybe," she said, her tone steady but emotional. "But I needed to see what real kindness looked like again. You reminded me." Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd helped her expecting nothing, and somehow that seemed to mean everything to her. She walked around the workshop, quietly observing the cracked floors, the outdated tools, the tired faces. Then she turned to the group. "This place has potential," she said, "and it's been overlooked for far too long." Larson laughed awkwardly. "Well, we manage. Budgets, you know, corporate approvals and all that." Ava's gaze sharpened. "Then consider this my approval." Everyone went still. She turned back to Ethan. "You once said you'd start your own garage if you could." He froze. "You remember that?" "I remember everything you said," she replied gently. "And I've been thinking maybe it's time you did." She pulled out a folder from her bag and handed it to him. Inside were papers, contracts, a loan approval notice, and his name printed on the deed of a new repair shop. Ethan stared at it, stunned. "What is this?" "It's yours," Ava said simply. "A new North Star partner shop, fully funded, your name on the front. Consider it an investment in a man who didn't look the other way when someone needed help." The workshop fell silent. Every mechanic stood frozen, disbelief painted across their faces. "I can't accept this," Ethan said finally, voice shaking. This is too much. Ava stepped closer, her eyes soft but unwavering. You didn't hesitate to save a stranger's life, Ethan. You gave warmth when you barely had enough for yourself. That kind of heart deserves more than gratitude. It deserves a chance. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he let out a shaky breath and nodded. All right, he said quietly. But only if I can pay it forward. I want to hire guys who've hit rock bottom, single parents who just need a shot. Ava smiled. A true, radiant smile this time. That's exactly why I chose you. Lily came running from the waiting room, holding a small drawing she'd been making. Daddy, look, I drew your new shop. Ava knelt down beside her. It's perfect, she said softly. And you should be proud of him. Lily grinned. I already am. Ethan looked from his daughter to Ava, emotion catching in his throat. The woman who'd appeared out of the storm had changed his entire world. And not because of her wealth or title, but because she'd seen in him what he'd forgotten to see in himself. Outside, the sunlight broke through the clouds, glinting off the snow like scattered diamonds. Ava turned to leave, her voice calm but full of warmth. You once told me dreams stay dreams. Now prove yourself wrong. And as her car pulled away, Ethan whispered to himself, maybe kindness really does come back around. That day, the humble mechanic who once gave shelter to a lost woman realized the truth. Sometimes the smallest act of compassion can rewrite a person's fate. And sometimes, the blizzard that nearly destroys you is just the storm that clears your skies.